Speedrunning is a term used to describe the community of passionate gamers that make use of everything ranging from level memorization to game-breaking glitches to get from the opening credits to the closing cinematics in as little time as possible. However, some games are tougher to beat than others, which makes it even more impressive when the speedrunners get a hold of them. With that in mind then, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 9 impossible video games utterly destroyed by speedrunners. Number 9, Minecraft. Minecraft is not necessarily packed with the same infuriating controls or purposefully difficult interactions as other titles in this list. However, there are still a number of factors that can make it a tough game to finish, especially when speedrunning. Because of the procedurally generated terrain loading with every world, it's impossible for players to map out a consistent strategy that they can then learn and rehearse each time. Instead, runners have to bank on getting lucky with a spawn and learning how to optimize with the resources that they've been given. As a sandbox title as well, most casual players aren't in a hurry to get to the end credits, and as such, some have still never ventured to the end before, but it is possible to get from nothing to besting the Ender Dragon in about 5 hours or so, depending on the seed. But for speedrunners, this is obviously far too long. The Mojang title as such is currently the second most active game on speedrun.com, with the world record for the Minecraft Java Edition any percent glitchless category coming from American runner Dougal, who set a time of 8 minutes 43 and 927 milliseconds in November 2022. Number 8, Mario Kart 64. For a certain generation of gamers, Mario Kart 64 was the definitive Mario Kart experience, and is still regarded as one of the best entries in the entire franchise. With that being said, it's still one of those releases from the 90s that is absolutely laced with its fair share of infuriating moments. Handy features like smart steering modern Mario Kart fans are used to aren't present here, while rubber banding with the AI is especially powerful, and the steering in general is a bit too all or nothing for some casual fans. Of course, that hasn't stopped speedrunners from making absolute mincemeat of the game over the years. Making use of various glitches to unlock some game-breaking shortcuts, the world record for the game currently stands at 8 minutes 3 seconds and 42 milliseconds, with the shortcutless category currently set at 42 minutes and 22 seconds. These records include finishing 3 laps of Luigi Raceway in 11.62 seconds, Choco Mountain in 14.38 seconds, Wario Stadium in 12.8 seconds, and DK's Jungle Parkway in just 17.17 seconds. Number 7, Getting Over It. Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy is one of those indie games that comes along that's purposefully difficult, but also a joy to play, i.e. the perfect game for speedrunners to completely decimate. The game itself, if you don't know, sees players take control of a semi-naked man in a pot who must traverse up a mountain with just a trusty sledgehammer to use as a grapple. As you go, the paths become increasingly harder to reach, with one error often proving heartbreakingly frustrating. In general then, Getting Over It speedrunners honestly feel like a different breed, hooking and throwing themselves across the uneven terrain almost as if they can see all of the upcoming hurdles that are hidden from audiences. It's like they can see the Matrix or something. And its speedrunning scene naturally is one of the most hotly contested around currently. As little as 2 years ago, the prospect of completing the game in under 1 minute 10 seconds seemed impossible, until Blastbolt the Bolt uploaded his effort of 1 minute 9 seconds and 717 milliseconds. Now, putting into context just how quick these players are getting at breaking the usually tricky game, Blast again broke the world record for Getting Over It in August 2022 with a time of 1 minute 1 second and 205 milliseconds for the glitchless category. Number 6, Marble Madness. Since its first launch in 1984, Marble Madness has earned a reputation for being a grueling and unforgiving experience, despite only consisting of 6 levels. The goal here is to lead a marble across various obstacles and past enemies in a race against time, the latter of which helped make the game so difficult for so many players. Now, the arcade version isn't the most accessible title for runners these days, who instead turn to the Nintendo Entertainment Systems and Game Boy editions. Now, just completing the main 6 levels will take a decent level player roughly 34 minutes to complete on average, with a completionist level requiring anywhere north of 3 hours. However, American speedrunner Yellsrake currently holds the world record for the any percent category on the NES with a whopping time of 2 minutes 38 seconds and 933 milliseconds. This runner also holds the world record for the any percent co-op category for Marble Madness as well, setting a time of 3 minutes 3 seconds and 433 milliseconds alongside fellow runner Chess Jerk. On the Game Boy version though, things get even spicier, as the 1991 version of Marble Madness currently has a world record of 1 minute 47 seconds and 865 milliseconds by Australian runner AD2. Number 5, Cloudberry Kingdom. Cloudberry Kingdom is a fun little indie title, but one of those fun little indie titles whose bright visuals and quirky cartoon characters mask some infuriatingly difficult level design. Jordan Fisher's game features plenty of procedurally generated levels that adapt based on a player's skill. So, physics, volume of enemies, and character abilities are all altered based on performance, making it a tricky title to get to grips with. It's not the most popular game to speedrun, but that didn't stop French player Roms2332 from smashing one of the runs of the year in September 2021. Setting the record for every individual chapter in the game, Roms2332's full story run finished with a time of 1 hour, 9 minutes, and 21 seconds. Now, that might seem much longer than what we've been talking about so far, but remember that there are over 300 levels in Cloudberry Kingdom, so the idea of someone being able to best the title in just under an hour and 10 minutes represents a real monumental effort from the Frenchman. The average runtime for players to just complete the game's main story varies between 5 and 9 hours, putting this achievement even more into context. Number 4, Spelunky. Spelunky is a 2008 indie title developed by Derek Yu. Combining elements of roguelike games with classic side-scrolling platformers, it sees players take the reins of an unnamed adventurer on a quest to obtain as much treasure as possible while avoiding the hazards and traps that line these cave walls. But again, the cute visuals are certainly deceiving for just how troublesome a playthrough of Spelunky can be. Whilst never necessarily feeling unfair, every enemy deals hefty damage from the start and deaths can come out of nowhere. Hell, Yu's vision for the game was to teach players that death in roguelike titles can come with just a moment's notice, which is perhaps why the average time to complete this game currently sits at around 20 hours. The game also features random procedural generation because, well, it's a roguelike, making memorization again impossible, and the best runs for speedrunners are consequently reliant on quick uses of in-game items. Despite this though, the world record for an any percent run on classic Spelunky is currently held by American runner Hectic X, who set a 2 minutes 31 time in May 2022. Number 3, Dark Souls. Dark Souls is one of the hardest games released in relatively recent times. The game infamously doesn't hold a player's hand when it comes to the difficulty, throwing huge enemies at them from the get-go with very little in the way of an introduction to how things work. Ultimately, it's a game that emphasizes experimentation through repeated deaths, which shouldn't make for a good formula for those looking to rush through a playthrough. Nevertheless, speedrunning the entire Dark Souls trilogy remakes one of the most popular titles for those players looking to showcase their skills with the mechanics. The 2011 original is perhaps the most interesting of these runs though, with the world record for the any percent category being chalked up at 20 minutes 53 seconds by American Kukio in April 2022. Given the average time to complete the game is roughly 43 hours, it's kind of an eye-watering time by these dedicated runners. Now, these runs themselves require numerous hard-to-perform tricks and glitches to achieve, with the kiln skip allowing them to skip out on nearly the entire second half of the game. What's more, when an update was introduced by From Software that made the skip impossible to perform, runners set out and discovered a new way of performing it, showing just how far these guys will go to break a game to keep those times down. Number 2, Battletoads. Battletoads is another of those classic 90s titles that has garnered an infamous reputation for being a devilishly difficult time. Ever since its initial launch on the NES in 1991, a huge factor behind the game's difficulty was the control scheme on the system's cross-shaped D-pad. Subsequent releases have gone out of their way to tone the difficulty down, but the infamous repetition of the original entry is what made it so beloved, and that of course helped foster a healthy speedrunning community. Runner X-Ray 662 currently holds the quickest world record for the any percent category for the game, setting a time of 12 minutes 33 seconds and 753 milliseconds with Rash back in April 2020. The Mexican runner also holds the record for the warpless category with a time of just 23 minutes and 42 seconds, and also set the world record for the 100% run with a time of 28 minutes 34 seconds. Considering the average Battletoads playthrough usually consists of dozens of deaths scattered across anywhere between 4 to 8 hours, it's a remarkable effort from these dedicated runners. Number 1, Cuphead. Even with the vibrant rubber hose animated visuals and snazzy jazz tunes, Cuphead is one of the most relentlessly unforgiving games going. This run-and-gun title sees players take control of Cuphead and his brother Mugman as they battle through hordes of bosses in an effort to reclaim souls from the devil. Like Dark Souls, there is a heavy emphasis on trial-and-error tactics that encourage players to die multiple times per boss. Despite this though, plucky speedrunners have been attempting to prove difficulty is all just an illusion, with some scintillating playthroughs of the game since its launch back in 2017. The previously mentioned The Mexican Runner famously produced 2 sterling runs at the stage in AGDQ in 2018 and 2019 respectively. The aforementioned The Mexican Runner famously produced 2 sterling runs on the stage at AGDQ in 2018 and 2019. Though it's actually another player, Clipboard Guy, who currently holds the any percent world record with his 28-minute 10-second run in October 2022. Now, for context, it mostly takes people around 10 hours to complete the most basic playthrough of this game, so that's mighty impressive. Cuphead itself has a bustling speedrunning community that extends much further than just an any percent run though, with full clear, all flags and all bosses all being popular categories to run. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think you could be any of these speedruns? And are there any impossible games that you've been impressed to see someone completely decimate that I missed off here? Let me know, and while you're down there, if you can, please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.